Hi, this is Reverend Rueben Gray, Justice of the Peace, former Regional Director, Ministry of Education, Region 5, and also agricultural educator. And this is Sherlock Robinson's YouTube channel. I'd like for you to share, like, subscribe, and participate in the channel and support him. He's doing a tremendous work in this community and by extension the world. God bless you.
Yes, sir, great. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Sherlock, Mr. Robinson. Good to be with you this morning.
Yes, sir, it's a privilege and a joy to really have this opportunity to do this interview, you know. I know a person would have known you as Mr. Gray, right?
Yes, sir.
Been in the community for a very long time, but to the state for the viewers, what is your real name and your origin, place of origin?
Well, my name is Rueben Gray, and Reverend Rueben Gray at this time. And I was born in Kingston.
Okay.
But my paternal grandmother took me when I was a year old.
Yes.
From my mother. I lived in Kingston for 5 years, from birth to 5. And then my grandmother migrated to St. Elizabeth. She was originally from St. Elizabeth.
Okay.
And so we went back there. I had my boyhood years, therefore, at a very rural district in St. Elizabeth.
Yes, sir. So what was the name of that community?
Richpen, to be exact, beside mountainside in St. Elizabeth.
Okay. So while as a youth growing up, sir, in that community, how was it for you in terms of finances and how you grew up as a boy?
Well, it was an agricultural community, and I can remember that there was this large landowner, an American, a white man, Mr. Alford. Yes, and he had a large tract of land where animals, and he had with him employed men and women from the community who worked with him.
Okay.
But I had an agricultural background because I used to be planting my own crops and also help the farmers in the area in planting and reaping their crops.
So how would you describe it, sir, back then compared to in terms of agriculture, growing up as a youth, compared to our youth now?
Well, the young people at that time were involved in agriculture. They seemed to like it, especially in that rural community. I notice that today youngsters are not so much involved in agriculture.
Okay. So during your teen years, were you still living in that community?
Okay, because of my background in agriculture, during my teen years, I went to St. Elizabeth Technical High School, and there I engaged in the agricultural department. In other words, at St. Elizabeth they had an engineering department, commerce department, home economics department, agriculture department, and because of my love for agriculture, I enrolled in that. Now the teachers wanted me to do engineering, but I resisted that. Because of my scholarly achievement, they wanted me to do that aspect of trade. But I decided that I wanted to do agriculture because of my background, and so I took with it.
So that would suggest to me, sir, and to the viewers, that you're a brilliant student.
Well, I had a wonderful time at States at that time, you know. I was head boy, president of the Students' Council, second in charge of the cadet course, and so on. And I could say I did well in the academic field.
So not only academically, but extracurricular activities that you mentioned that they're a cadet.
Yes.
So that would have helped you to become a holistic person.
But it did, that is true.
Okay, and so forward from there now, sir. Did you attend university or college or?
Well, yes, I'm emphasizing agriculture again because I took the entrance to the MICO and to the Jamaica School of Agriculture.
That's my computer story.
Yes, and I decided to go to the Jamaica School of Agriculture. Had I gone to the MICO, I suppose I would be a historian or a geographer. But you know, I decided to go into the harder fields, the sciences such as chemistry and botany and zoology and so on. The background to agriculture. And so perhaps I would have done better as a historian in history or geography. But I chose to do the harder sciences because of my love of agriculture.
In other words, I was passionate for agriculture.
Certainly, sir.
So after you graduated from agricultural school, did you spend time in agriculture or did you go into other fields or?
Well, at that time, Mr. Edwin Allen, who was the Minister of Education, that he had what was called the New Deal in education, where he introduced the junior secondary school.
Yes.
And so I was drafted into teaching agricultural education.
So you were a teacher?
Yes, I taught, among other things, some of the science subjects, but agriculture was my main subject at school, where I taught.
So where from the school that you taught?
I did not know Christiana, to be honest with you, at that time, but I heard of a teaching job at Christiana, and so I applied there, and that is how I came to this area, Christiana.
That's Christiana Secondary?
It was then the Christiana Junior Secondary. Originally a senior school, but it was one of those schools that the government at the time, you know, changed to become a part of the junior secondary system.
Okay. So that was when you came to Manchester?
Yes, first time in Christiana at that time.
Okay. So everybody know person around it here, I know you come to Cobbla, but person, I don't think person actually know who you are. They know that you are Mr. Green, right?
Yes.
And person would have known, would have come to you because you're also a JP before you. But before we go ahead, so how was your journey to becoming a JP?
Okay, well, having served in the community of Christiana, Cobbla, the general area,
Yes.
and having served in some other areas, which you know I might tell you about in the long run, I was recommended by Mr. Ivan Green, a very notable Jamaican president of Christiana, to become an adjuster of the peace, and that is how I became a deputy.
Okay. And the community would have benefited.
Certainly, you know, I know I'm a retiree and I operate from home at this time. And very often you'll find persons coming to me, even before I get up in the morning, they're here waiting for me to do their documents. Because formally I would have been going out to work and they know that I leave home at a particular time. But they tend to come, you know, the early morning or late afternoon and to have their documents taken care of.
Just to backtrack a bit. I learned that you used to work at the Ministry of Education. To the state in what capacity?
Okay, I became, firstly, after teaching agriculture, Christian school, yes, at Christiana, I later became an education officer for agricultural education right across Jamaica. So I would travel from Portland in the east to Hanover in the west, visiting schools at every level, the all-age schools, the high schools, the junior secondary schools at that time, all of those schools that did agriculture. It was a wide cross-section of schools that did it. And so my job was to relate to them, to advise them, and so on and so forth. It was a very motivating experience.
Okay, so I would ask you, sir, so what were some of the achievements there? All right, what were some of the low points being an agricultural advisor? What are some of the high points that you want to speak?
Well, okay, the low points would be when I taught agriculture, and because of the background from which we came, Jamaicans in agriculture, we were once slaves on the plantations and so on. So agriculture was not seen in that light as an enterprising area for our youngsters to enter. As a matter of fact, when I entered as having graduated from the School of Agriculture, the average age of farmers at the time it was about 60. because youngsters were not too, did not want to enter because they didn't see it as an enterprising area. And also in the school system, the society, parents and even teachers shunted the slow learners into agriculture because they felt that if you're brilliant, you should do something else and not agriculture. So agriculture was the last resort. So that's a main low point in it, you know. And of course, we were not really feeding ourselves in agriculture. We had a lot of imports and so on. So those were some of the low points in agriculture, although it should have been really the mainstay of Jamaica. As in some other developed countries where it is seen as a very healthy area to be in Jamaica it was not so.
Let's pause here, sir. Remember the next point. So that was where former Prime Minister Michael Maluda quote, grow what they make them what they grow.
Yes, you know, and I had some tremendous experiences in his time.
Okay.
Because at that time he really promoted agriculture. And I could remember in 1977 so we had an agricultural exhibition at St. Louis Technical High School. I was then an education officer. We organized that. And we had a tremendous fair at Steps. And the Prime Minister came, Mr. Manley, the Minister of Education, came Mr. Bell, the Minister of Agriculture was there, the entire Minister of Agriculture was there, the Minister of Education, like it closed its operation that day, the central office. To be at Santa Cruz, a tremendous day. And most schools across Jamaica. We don't have that sort of thing anymore.
Yes. So you're about to make it, tell us about the high point. Yeah.
Okay, as I said, I served in agriculture. So then, as an education officer, I had a distinction, and I'm very proud of this, to have been a part of the whole conceptualization and the development of the Elim Agricultural School and the Pastor Garden Agricultural School at the time. Because of how agriculture was used in schools at the time, myself and two other educators who were in agriculture were given the responsibility to how these schools develop. And so from the conceptualization stage to relating to various persons within the society, to the construction of the buildings, the recruitment of teachers, the recruitment of students and so on. I was involved in all of those, in those schools. I could remember, for example, looking for land in Jamaica just for building those two schools. So Pastor Garden Agricultural School at the time, we looked at a place called Lennox in Portland, Muirton over in St. Thomas and so on. And eventually, I could remember one day, 5 of us, the pilot and the landowner, and 3 educators flew over the Blue Mountain, over to Pastor Gardens, flew over the property, and so on, landed at the Ken Jones Aerodrome in Portland there, and then traveled through the property at Pastor Gardens. So 700 acres of land. We walked through a couple acres, did soil sampling and so on and so forth, and then recommended that place to become the place for agriculture, to replace the Jamaica School of Agriculture, not Jamaica School of Agriculture, to introduce the Pastor Garden Agricultural School. Similarly, we went into St. Elizabeth. I remember going to Luana and looking at the land there, but we were not happy with the land. Eventually we went to Elim, did soil samples and so on, and recommended Elim also to be the other agricultural school. Oh yes.
Okay.
So those two schools, because again, the way we saw agriculture, we decided that these two schools would have been outstanding secondary level agricultural schools. So much so that the Minister of Education, after the schools were developed, decided that the Pastor Garden Agricultural School should become the new College of Agriculture.
Okay. that was how that you were born to become agriculture.
Yes, it started as a plastic garden agricultural school, but then the Jamaica School of Agriculture was closed down and the students were transferred from the Jamaica School of Agriculture to the Plastic Garden Agricultural School. The Plastic Garden students who were the secondary level students were transferred to Eden. And so you had the birth of the College of Agriculture, which later joined with the Teachers College, which was a part of the same Plastic Gardens community, and became CASE, the College of Agriculture, Science and Education.
And you were one of those persons, we are able to conceptualize, and as a result,
yes,
we have CASE.
As a matter of fact, I was involved in curriculum development at CASE as well. And I also lectured over there, in agronomy for a year.
Interesting, Mr. Reed. So,
but also, I was also the principal of Eden for 3.5 years.
You were also a principal, sir?
Yes.
Well, so we could describe them as a gentle giant.
Well, it was a pleasure to serve.
Because, to be honest with you, sir, I've been with them all these years, and I know that you had these roots, you were behind a lot of these people. Sometimes you sit on persons, and you don't know certain things. This interview, and then for the viewers, they will be more informed, be more educated, and be more empowered to know that you were one of those persons, not that you were not that kind of a person who in the spotlight. So we can't really, they would say you can't judge a book by its cover. They would have to read the book. So you were one of those books now that we're reading. You need to know that you were really behind a lot of these development and changes that took place back then in Jamaica. And as a result, today, this generation having those privileged to be a part of history.
Yeah, well, I don't know what happened, but I suppose it fell into place. As I said, the conceptualization of Elim and Plastic Gardens.
Yes.
The Plastic Gardens is now the case. Interviewed, a matter of fact, at Elim, it was really a very rural community. And the land was a part of the Black River Upper Rural Development Company, which was called Rueben. Vast grassland, as it were. And because of the involvement throughout the whole process of going to the place, recommending it, see the buildings or the layout of buildings, what the building should be like, what the program should be like, the recruitment interview of principals and teachers and so on, interviews the first set of students, that sort of thing. So when the lights were turned on at institutions by the Jamaica Public Service Company and the technicians and all of that in the initial stage and so on, and then became principal there as well, and then had some outstanding students. The present permanent secretary in the Ministry of Agriculture, one of my students. So I have students who are professors now. Let me see now, I'm just trying to remember. But everybody knows him at this stage. Just can't remember the name. But he's the permanent secretary.
He was one of your students.
Yes, a former president of CASE as well, Dr. Ivy. You know, the former president of CASE. He's now associate professor at UTEC and so on. And we have students who are professors. Matter of fact, there's a lady who is a professor at a European university, not British, but in other words, she is able now to speak, I suppose, fluently a foreign language in the country where she was at. And she served in Spain for some time, and she served in some other country in Europe. So we had a number of students who did extremely well.
And she was one of your students?
Of course.
Brilliant. Yes. Interesting story, Mr. Gray.
Yes, so, Mr. Spence, German Spence, is the permanent secretary.
Oh, German
at the
Spence.
Ministry of Agriculture.
Yes, you got Mr. German Spence, one of Mr. Gray student. Wow, Mr. Gray, interesting, sir. So, your journey continues from class, becoming a principal,
From ELM from the School of Agriculture.
And you will have transitioned into the Ministry of Agriculture and
Education.
Education.
Well, I went to the Ministry of Education because of the new deal in education and the introduction of the junior secondary schools with an agricultural component. That's how I went there. I suppose because of, the history of Jamaica where we were coming from, I would have normally been in the Ministry of Agriculture and probably would have become an extension officer, visit farms and advise farmers and so on and so forth. But I chose to go to the Ministry of Education in their agricultural program rather than going to the Ministry of Agriculture. Notwithstanding that a lot of my colleagues and schoolmates went to the Ministry of Agriculture because they normally would. And so I have that sort of relationship with the Ministry of Agriculture back then as well, and with all of my schoolmates being over there.
So, working with the Ministry of Education, sir, in what capacity do you serve?
Okay, as I said, I started out as an education officer, moved to the ranks to become a senior education officer, and then I suppose because in the Ministry of Education, the specialists in the vocational areas, sometimes would have gone to a certain level and remained there, and so on. But somehow, I got gas went over to as a senior education officer in secondary education. That is dealing with not just agriculture now, but all subjects taught in schools to supervise teachers and principals at that level. And then after that, I was promoted to regional director in the Mandeville Regional Office, and I served there for about 12 years.
Interesting, sir. So you were the boss of Mandeville Regional Office at that time?
Well, I was the regional director in charge of the office.
So, let me ask you. So, being the regional director, what are some of your challenges being the regional director, and what are some of the high point moments that you want to share for the viewers?
Okay, I'd rather, there had any down moments. Of course, schools sometimes would have their problems that you have to relate to, and you would advise principals, you relate to boards, you look at curricular materials and so on. You'll have a group of educators, education officers who you would be in charge of, and so you relate to them. But what I can say is that I had a tremendous relationship with the staff, the professionals in the Ministry of Education there in the Mandeville office, the technical people, the others who were in administration and so on. It was a wonderful period, about 12 years of wonderful relationship with success. Well, I related very well to them. I can't remember of any time when we had any major problem within that office, but I was able to mobilize our staff members and so on, and they worked closely with me. We had a wonderful period together.
Okay. I know you're a retiree, sir.
Yes, sir.
But even though you are a retiree, Mr. Lee, but you seem to be a man of many hats. And you mentioned that you're also a minister of religion.
Yes.
So what's the name of the church that you
The Church of the Firstborn of Jamaica and Overseas Fellowships.
Okay, so how long have you been the minister there, sir?
It's about 25 years, 25, almost 30 years.
So while you were working with the Minister of Education, you were the pastor for your church?
Well, I was the pastor for a number of churches at that time. We didn't put it this way. It didn't interfere with my work at the Ministry of Education because I gave service there and so on. I was a pastor at the church in Christiana, Church of the Firstborn of Jamaica, Calvary Gospel Hall, Church at Cobbla, Church of the Firstborn of Jamaica, Mount Carmel Gospel Hall. I was also the pastor of Grace Chapel in Santa Cruz, and I was the pastor also of a church we call it Providence near St. Paul's. That is, we could call it Western Manchester.
Uncle Medston, that kind of.
Yes, and also I served the international body because our church is not just in Jamaica. We have about 45 local branches in Jamaica, and we have churches in England, in Canada, and the United States of America. But the church originated in Jamaica, which is different from others. Other churches originated abroad, and missionaries came here. We sent missionaries abroad, and so we now have churches in Canada, USA, and England. And while I served also as the superintendent, which is really the bishop of the church. And so after my retirement from well, I did 10 years as the bishop of the church of the firstborn. I gave up that responsibility about 2 years ago. And but during that time I had to travel out of Jamaica to all churches in England, to our churches in the United States of America, and also to Canada. So I was on the circuit, very often I would be away during those years.
You are really a gentleman.
I love to serve.
Quietly achieving important goals.
But right now I'm in the retirement mode, so I'm only in charge of one church. By design, I was involved in succession planning, so I would ensure that the others would come after me, and I guided them through the process. So we have a new superintendent. We are serving in Christina. We have a different pastor there. We have a young pastor. I serve also at Walton Park Road in Kingston, at our church in Kingston, as well as pastor. We have a new young pastor there, and so on. So my role too was not just to hold on to a position, but to train others to come after you, to mentor them, and then to let them go and manage.
It's a very interesting story. And you are also a Rotarian.
Yes,
I found a name of the
Rotarian. I once served as the president of Rotary Club Christiana. Still a member of the Rotary Club, But because of my many activities, and I still have served in many areas, I serve nominally in the Rotary Club at this time, not involved in a lot of upfront activities.
Yes, sir. And you're also a justice of the peace.
Yes, as I mentioned earlier. At this time, the JP is in Christiana area, and there are some 68 other of us. And the Custom Room of Manchester decided that I should be what you call the regional coordinator for the 60 years of JPs who are in the Christiana area. So in a sense, I coordinate the activities of the Justice of the Peace in the Christiana area.
Because there's something
Green.
Honorable Green. Okay. So I say you're the person who supervises the group of people.
Well, yes, very important.
Okay. Wow. Interesting study. Very interesting. And you're really a humble person because you know for many years, and I didn't know that you were so active in so many things.
Well, I enjoy life, and it's a pleasure for me to work with people and to serve my community, to serve the country, and to serve in the area that the Lord would want me to serve. And praise God for the fact that He has me here, and I have been of service to Him, the community, and the country.
Yes, sir. So just to sum it up now, what were some of your major achievements in all of these different departments that you have served? What were some of your major achievements?
Okay, as I mentioned earlier, in in estates to be the head boy, the president of the students' council, the second in charge of the cadet force. As a teacher here in Christian, I got motivated a set of youngsters, through Christian at the junior secondary school. Then, as an education officer, to have trained some young teachers and to have advised principals, and teachers who were in agriculture, as a regional director, to have, been involved in the further development of the school. Matter of fact, I'm not boasting, but I didn't hear the radio commentary that they had, a television commentary, but there was a commentary. My region, Region 5, was an outstanding and has been an outstanding region. And one Dr. Dennis Minot, who was involved, I heard, in recruiting students to go to America, to the universities in America. I heard he was on radio on one occasion, and they were talking about the regions, and of course they mentioned the prowess of Region 5, and I heard that he said, boy, I would like to meet Mr. Gray, who was the regional director. I didn't meet him, but I heard that he mentioned that statement.
Okay.
And of course, also the pride of having been involved in the establishment of the Edom Agricultural School, which is now the Sydney Pagan School, and also the Pastor Garden Agricultural School, which is now Case, and to have been involved in curriculum development and lecturing at the then College of Agriculture. And also, as an education officer, I was on the Caribbean agricultural panel to develop the curriculum for the single and double award subject in the CXC examination. So very often I'll be down in Barbados or Trinidad developing curriculum for our CXC program here in the Caribbean.
So, any major significant achievement from all these, all of you would have served in the departments?
I think in 2008, I was awarded, it must have been the Social Development Commission, an award for education in the region.
Okay.
And just about 3 weeks ago, an agricultural magazine editor and staff members and a panel that they had gave a number of us, recognized a number of us. It was the agriculturists, farmers, newspapers, and so on. And I was interviewed by I think it was Alvin McKnight, I think he's a journalist, yes.
Yeah, that's a journalist.
And some other persons. And so this is your interview, but that was not for exposure,
Okay.
And the award that they were there, they recognized me, but I'm not so much elated about the recognition, but yes, I'm elated about it. But the fact that they recognized me amongst a number of great Jamaicans that I have a tremendous amount of respect for. Such persons as Mr. Cyril Bridge, who taught me chemistry at the Jamaica School of Agriculture, and he was a brilliant chemistry student, special chemistry student from University of the West Indies. He became an industrialist in producing chemical things in Jamaica. And Dr. Carl Wellington, who was with Dr. Leckie, was responsible for the development of the Jamaica Hope breed of cattle, a tremendous achievement you can think of. And also Dr. Keith Emile was a vet, and also Ambassador Derek Heaven. I felt good to be among these persons that were...
Dr. Abel?
No, man.
Oh, Emile?
No. Who are you referring to now?
You mean about Dr. Keith?
Dr. Carl Wellington, Dr. Keith Emile.
Oh, Emile, okay.
Yes. Ambassador Derek Heaven, and among others, and I have them here. They recognize us.
They want to call out the name too.
You know, of course, there's Mr. Cyril Bridge, he lectured to me. Dr. Carl Wellington, as I mentioned, a geneticist,
Yes.
a tremendous man. A matter of fact, he was in charge of the agricultural division at Alcan here for many years. Mrs. Jasmine Gomez, who's a geneticist as well. Mr. Shavik Latibadir, who's a farmer. Mr. Robert Reed, an agribusiness consultant. Dr. Keith Emil, veterinary surgeon. Myself, Mr. Webster McPherson, who is an agriculturist and a journalist. Mrs. Paulette Lyons Dodd, an agricultural administrator. Mrs. Rita Hilton, fresh produce exporter. Mr. Norman Grant, a coffee man from in the Blue Mountains here. He was a senator at one stage. Mr. Houghton Fraser, who was the RADA director in Jamaica as well. Miss Olive Johnson, a farmer. Ambassador Derek Evans, who served as ambassador to Russia and to Tokyo, to Japan and so on. Mr. Noel Clark, a farmer. Mr. Michael Swaby. Mr. Thomas Burton, who was my batchmate and who served also as deputy director of RADA. Mr. Paul Jennings, a university mate of mine who is a nutritionist and so on, and Mr. Roger Turner, farmer, and Mr. By these persons, and of course they were recognized. We were recognized. What I said earlier is that I felt good about us being among them.
Okay.
Yes.
Some scholars,
Well,
brilliant Jamaican.
well, you know, if you take Dr. Carl Wellington, for example, and Dr. Philip Dick, it is not usual for any one individual to develop a breed of animals in his lifetime. It takes generations, you know. Like you say, I started the work, somebody else, when I die, somebody continued until they get to a breed. These guys were able to develop a breed in their own lifetime. The Jamaica Hope, the Jamaica Black, the Jamaica Red.
What? Those are animals?
Cattle, cows,
Okay.
cattle,
Okay.
cattle. Jamaica Hope is a dairy breed, you know. Well, it's a breed that now can, formerly our animals came from Europe, you know, the Jersey, the Holstein and so on. And they were not well adapted to our country. So a breed of animals had to be developed that could adapt to our climate and also produce, you know, good milk production and so on and so forth. You know, and as in the red and the black, good meat production and so on. Okay. So those are developed for our country. And we are proud of these. As a matter of fact, I was studying in Oklahoma State some years ago. And a professor there, you know, because he recognized that my English was British.
Yeah.
He spoke to me one day and he said, you're from British territory? I said, yes, I'm from Jamaica. He said, oh, Dr. Leckie, that tremendous geneticist. I didn't meet him, but I would have liked to have met him. You know, and I felt so good about it. You know, he's a Jamaican, and he, as I said, he did something that, along with Dr. Wellington, that no single set of persons in their lifetime were able to do. To develop a breed of animal.
So in other words, he break two barriers.
Of course, yes.
Saw your frontier. And then you have a clock here.
Well, the same thing that from the recognition from the legacy award and the University of Cambridge.
Okay, you said agriculture is the newspaper for progression farmers. Legacy award celebrating excellence in agriculture presented to Mr. Rueben Gray, agriculture educator, in recognition of your outstanding contribution to Jamaican agriculture and in celebration of Jamaica's 60th year of independence, January 14, 2023. Wow. Some of the sponsors are Apple, Hardware and Lumber, the Minister of Agriculture and Fisheries, you have RADA, you have the Farmers Almanac, yes, and Jamaica Agriculture Society. Really, Mr. Gray?
Well, you know, not many persons, if you were a younger person like yourself, you would have known of my involvement in agriculture. Because I don't have a big farm, I just plant a couple of bananas and meat and so on.
Okay.
But because time did not allow me to devote time to myself and spend all my time relating to others and so on and so forth, I really took my task seriously and so on. You know. But for example, there are persons who I remember when I was a young teacher in Christian and I rented a home and then I had to use a machete to cut the lawn. And somebody saw me one day and he thought that I was the yard boy, so to speak.
Okay.
So while I was cutting the lawn, he said to me, "Hey, is the back feeding you well?" Because I was cutting the lawn, I wasn't certain. Because I was using a machete and I did take care of it. He felt that I was working with these people who lived there, but I was the person living where they was, took care of it. But I said that because sometimes even some of the members of my church would see me with a machete when I go to church and help with some. And I said, but I didn't know you could use a machete. They would not know about my background, so to speak.
Okay. Well, Mr. Gray, this is really a honor for me, sir. And really a privilege to really, have this opportunity to do this interview for the world to know more about who is Mr. Gray. Not just a JP, not just a community personnel, not just a reverend, not just, but you're really a full pack all around the individuals who have contributed significantly to the welfare and the development of Jamaicans. And I just want the viewers to notice that we Jamaicans, we can do much more. So I'm taking this medium to say and to put this message out there. Let us put all hands on deck. Try to eliminate some of the crime and the violence that is taking our country. And let us put our shoulder to the wheel. And we can achieve significant success, in over a period of time. Because we have known of Usain Bolt, we have known of Shelley and Fraser, Sapa Powell, Bob Marley, and the list goes on and on and on and on. Marcus Garvey, Michael Manley, on and on, Edward Siaga, those great Jamaicans. And we, the generation is coming up after, we can emulate them. Because he is a gentleman in our community, Mr. Rueben Gray. And I did not know that Mr. Gray has so much about him. So it is important to let your story speak for itself. And as a result, you will leave behind a legacy that the future generation can emulate and to be a part of history. So, Mr. Gray, it's really a privilege of mine, sir. And I thank you so much for this opportunity. And I know that this story will become embedded in many people who will do this. And to know that we Jamaicans have the potential and we can indulge in crime and violence. It's just a renewing of our minds and the rest can become history and live for us a legacy for the future generation. Thank you very much.
It's a pleasure speaking with you, Mr. Robbins. I really enjoyed it. And as you mentioned, we don't have to journey into crime and violence. My mother migrated to England when I was 5, and my father, I met him for the first time when I was 41. Who played no role in my life and so on. So I had to take hold of my life very early, and it was good, that I so focused on what was productive and fruitful. And praise God, He took me through, and I'm happy about life itself. Thank you again for putting me with you.
Thank you again, sir.
God bless you.